Spider-Man Far From Home. It is the sequel to Homecoming and also the sequel to Infinity War and Endgame. Uh, it picks up shortly after Endgame actually finishes, and the aftermath is very heavily influenced in this movie. Influences the movie. That's the thing. The first act kind of, I still don't know how to receive it. But, and honestly, my rating may just be shaking on that one. But honestly, in majority of the movie, I absolutely loved it. The chemistry between the cast, the music that was composed by Michael Giacchino, the action, the script. I really liked where they were going with this one. Now I'm gonna go into something here, and honestly, I might be repeating myself a couple times. It might occur, but in a lot of ways, I am comparing the two, even though they're very hard to compare. So Homecoming was a very different movie than this one for me personally, and I have a feeling for a lot of fans as well. And generally, I don't remember exactly how well that one was received. It did well at the box office, I'll say that. But as a solo movie, as a solo movie for the MCU, and as a Spider-Man story, I just didn't feel like it did what it, I guess it did what it wanted to do, but I don't think it did what it needed to do. It's really hard to say that. But I mean, inserting a hero like this into a world like that in such a random point in time, it's kind of, you're not even giving him an origin story, you're just, giving him a suit and being like, okay, well, good luck. And it's just, they put in Tony Stark, and that kind of helped him, but maybe it overshadowed him too much. Anyways, all those things get resolved here. Kind of, for me, personally. This feels like a Spider-Man movie, and it feels like a damn good Spider-Man movie. And I haven't been this blown away by a Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. Now, we're going to get into that in a second, because I'm not saying that this is better than Spider-Man 2, but it stands its own ground, and I was really hoping that will happen. After Homecoming came out, I gotta say, I wasn't amped up for like, oh my god, what is the sequel going to be about? Because, honestly, I didn't know what the sequel was going to be about, and I didn't know what area they're going to be taking it in. I knew that basically anything that follows Homecoming after that is probably going to be some sort of a gateway to what kind of story we're going to be getting in the MCU for the future, and that might actually, evolve the storyline. I just didn't get much from Homecoming to be stoked enough. And I say that because after this, I cannot wait to see what the hell they're going to be doing in number 3. I mean, like, the stakes cannot be any higher, in my opinion. It's insane how much they actually pulled off in this. The visuals, the casting, the writing, the music. There's almost nothing I can say that actually trashes this movie. And you can say that I'm biased. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. But after everything that came after Spider-Man 2, I was able to point out to you, or that this was not the movie that, fans would have wanted after that. Whoever plays the PS4 game for the new Spider-Man that came out last year, even then the stakes are high. And honestly, at this point, that actually was a project that really blew my mind. And I feel like, you know what? It's actually getting there. Last year's Into the Spider-Verse was also a good step forward. It's really, 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 really good that things are amplifying and things are getting focused on in a proper way. The formula for Homecoming and the formula for Far From Home could not be any more different. That being said, Far From Home is way more faithful to the comics in many scenarios. Of course, he's still in high school, but the projects that he has, the things that he has to focus on. This guy's a kid. He wants a normal life. And while he has his responsibilities that he needs to adhere to, and it conflicts with his duties as Spider-Man, conflicts with his duties as Peter Parker. And he needs to juggle that. And you didn't really feel that in Homecoming. What you felt was this kid who wanted to be a hero, and he was neglecting his life to be a hero. Or trying to be a hero, anyway. And in this one, basically, he's not really neglecting being a hero. He has to be. It's part of the gig. And he's still neglecting his life, but he's resentful of that. He really wants to be a kid. He wants to live, he wants to be on this trip. He wants to be with his friends. He wants to be with this girl that he frickin' likes. I mean, he's human. More human than in the first one, I guess. He really wanted, he had his own personal mission. While he had his own mission that he had to do with Nick Fury and Mysterio. And it's just, the acting is really well done. The writing is really well done. One thing I can praise really heavily with this, and I actually, because I had a lot of problems with this before, in general, not with the Spider-Man movies, but any movie that follows on the heels of an Avengers movie, usually, for me personally, was a letdown. Well, let's recap here. Iron Man 3 followed Avengers. It made over $1 billion because it followed the Avengers. But honestly, it just wasn't the kind of movie that a lot of people were hoping it to be. Critically, fan base, it was actually quite underwhelming. A lot of people find it as a cool movie. I mean, sure, it's a cool movie. But I mean, does that make a good movie? Not usually, anyway. Okay, so Avengers Age of Ultron. What followed that? Ant-Man. Ant-Man was good. It was supposed to close Phase 2. Sorry, it was supposed to open Phase 3, and then they made it open Phase 2. Because for some reason they thought that this is going to kind of introduce... And I guess it kind of introduced quantum... the whole quantum physics element of it. But that could have easily been put into Phase 3, I guess. It wasn't as universal and as big, as pun intended, I guess, as influenced as, let's say, Homecoming was. Far From Home was in this case. And what followed Avengers Infinity War? It was Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel to Ant-Man. And again, it was a little bit underwhelming. It was a palate cleanser. It was what it was labeled as after what Infinity War did. And sure, it was an enjoyable, fun ride, but it just wasn't what we were looking for as a sequel. Then this one came around, and it's a really fun time, but it also has some drama to it. It really has character development. It has its own stature. It has so much it can offer. And honestly, I don't know if there's going to be another movie like Endgame, and if there's going to be another movie that's going to follow it up like this. It was really woven together. It feels like a part of the same story, and it's a really big compliment to Spider-Man for giving his series, his part of the series, is kind of a level, and also part of the fact that he is closing the MCU Phase 3, and anything that happens beyond this is going to be so heavily influenced by it. Not just Avengers, but this movie on its own. Which is why I'm so actually stoked about what they're going to be doing, because honestly, I didn't see this one coming. It threw me a curveball. I did not see this one coming at all. And I absolutely love what they did. Now, is it as good as Spider-Man 2? Spider-Man 2 is a very different movie, in my opinion. And to anyone I ever talk to, if I'm ever comparing a Spider-Man movie, I'm like, oh, is it as good as Spider-Man 2? And I mean the 2004 one. And it's just not... It's just hard to measure up to that. It was a classic movie. It's one of the best superhero movies of all time. It's right up there. This one is its own thing. I love the writing in the movie. I love the acting in the movie. And I guess that is actually what made Spider-Man 2 so great. I mean, the visuals were great. Writing was also good. But the acting was great too, I guess. And in this one, it really just blew it out of the ballpark for me. The chemistry between the actors was amazing. The formula that they had was astounding. I guess the only thing that doesn't make this relevant as much as, let's say, Spider-Man 2, because that movie stood on its own, and this one's on the heels of MCU. I mean, it's there, We have to admit that it's there because he's going to be essential in the future of the MCU and all that. But Homecoming used it as a crutch. This one, he's throwing the crutches away and he's kind of getting on his own ground, if we want to use metaphors. I absolutely love what they did with this. Tom Holland as Peter Parker and as Spider-Man, he proved himself. I always said he was the best of both worlds. I loved the fact that basically for me, Tobey Maguire was the best Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield, if I have to pick, was the better Spider-Man. And again, it's not because Tobey Maguire was a bad Spider-Man. I just feel like the writers didn't put enough kick into what Spider-Man's personality was, with his one-liners and his quips and all that. Tom Holland really brings it home. Pun intended, I guess. It's really well done, and I could not recommend it any more than I already am for any current MCU fan who probably already saw it, or any newcomer who wants to see a good Spidey movie or a fun comic book action movie. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I absolutely love what they did. And I was blown away. I was surprised. It was an event. It was really an event. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the movies. And do yourself a favor. See this as soon as you can. Have a good one.